My very first business was a lemonade stand. I don't know if you had a lemonade stand as a kid, but your lemonade stand was probably not like my lemonade stand. My lemonade stand gave you a free glass of lemonade. You could come up and you could get a free glass of lemonade. If you wanted more than one glass, you had to buy the bottle. So I had bottles of lemonade, and then I had free glass of lemonade. The difference was the glass was very cold and perfectly sweetened. The bottles were very hot and totally diluted. I mean, watered down, it was horrible. And so I gave you something free, and then when you felt like you had confidence that I was going to do the right thing, I sold you something probably overpriced and horrible. And that is why I'm qualified today to speak to you about business models. Because most people, they just try to do the right thing. And I've been playing around with models and playing around with the variables of business for a long time. Not really trying to mess with people after that, but I was 5, so you can't really blame me. The truth is, all of us interact with business models all the time. That may be hard to read. I'm so sorry. Click and mortar. Click and mortar is like Best Buy, right? You can go to the mortar, you can go to the physical place, but you can also get online and buy stuff. We've experienced that business model. Or the freemium model, right? Maybe you have Dropbox, you get something for free, you share with some friends, maybe you pay a little money, you get more of what you want. Auctions, maybe you've been to eBay, right? Network effect. Twitter, the old model used to be telephones, but Twitter wouldn't work very well if you were the only one on it, right? And their advertising model, they wouldn't be able to generate revenue if there was only 1 or 2 people on it. The more people that are on the system, the more they can make money. Multi-level marketing, right? Avon or Sensi, which happens to be killing it these last couple of years, right? When you just say, I'm going to help, I'm going to have a party. I don't know if you've ever been to have a Pampered Chef event, right? Where you go and maybe you're the one hosting, you end up getting stuff for free if other people come and they buy stuff, right? And eventually you invite someone else to sell for you, and you make a little bit off what they sell. And then on the other side, you have, direct sales. How many of you have ever had someone stop by and try and sell you a Kirby vacuum cleaner? Okay, for the rest of you, you have no idea yet how dirty your house is. Because what they do is they bring a vacuum cleaner, they ring your doorbell, they come into your home, they have just the core part of the vacuum cleaner, and then with that vacuum cleaner, they have all these white pads. And the white pads are basically to show you when they vacuum, and then they pull the pad out, and they show you how dirty things are, right? And if they haven't convinced you yet, they go to your bed, and they vacuum your bed. And until the Kirby guy vacuumed our bed, we didn't know that we needed to be vacuuming our bed, right? We had no idea how gross our bed was, right? And he was just like vacuuming the bed and going, look at this dirt, look at it. So we didn't just buy 1 Kirby vacuum cleaner, we bought 2. Right? 1 for upstairs, 1 for downstairs, so we didn't want to carry it up and down, and because they had this huge deal. But this is a guy who goes door to door, rings your doorbell, and says, I want to sell you direct. Right? Some of you have experienced that model. Oh. Then we have low-cost leader. Right? How many of you have been to IKEA? Right? That's incredible furniture if you have very little money. Right? And you have a lot of time to build it from instructions that were written by someone who then translated it to a different language to hand it to someone else to translate it back to English so that you could try and read it. It's insane, but it's cheap. System integrators, right? IBM will show up and say, I know you want this, but you also have a problem, and between the hardware or between the software and the problem, we're going to step in and we're going to assemble things, we're going to connect things, we're going to put your business logic into things and deliver it to you. And so we added value in the process. We added value by integrating, or some players will play as VAR, value-added reseller, and they will add that value in between and then deliver it to you. Razors and blades, right? Gillette, They'll send you one razor and then a whole bunch of blades. And then, of course, right, subscriptions, right? How many of you have Comcast or Cox or some other cable company? How many of you love your cable company? Right. Yeah, no one. And yet, it's a subscription model, and we keep paying month after month. It's amazing, right? Because they're not doing a great service, and we're all unhappy, and yet we still keep paying, right? Because you're like, oh, I can't live without this, so I'm just going to keep paying every month, no matter how frustrated I am with it. All of us have experienced all kinds of business models. And what I want to do this morning is walk you through some of the thinking that I would encourage you to do when you're thinking about a new business. I handle calls on a service called Clarity.fm where people call, entrepreneurs call, and they have ideas and they want to talk through them. And most of the time, those calls are frustrating for me, right? Because I'm like, how can you possibly want to leave your job and do this thing, and I've spent more time thinking about your business model than you have? That shouldn't be the case. So what is a business model, right? What are we talking about? Well, in simplest terms, a business model is how you are going to make money. How you make money, how you plan to make money, how's this all going to work? And in a business model, you have a prospect or a customer, and you have you or your company, and in between you have an offer. That offer could be a product, it could be a service, it could be just an exchange or a trade, and it's going to be for some amount of money. That's a business model, in simplest terms. But every business model makes assumptions. When you assemble your model, when you start thinking about your business model, some of those assumptions are about your target customer. Are you going to go to the high-end segment, middle market, or are you going down low? That's going to have an impact on how big your market is, right? One of the first questions I'd ask anyone is, well, how big is your attainable market, right? Someone walked up to me and said, I have this great idea. I'm going to create a theme framework for WordPress. We were at a WordCamp, and they walked up to me and they said, I'm going to create a theme framework. I said, oh, what kind of framework? Well, it's going to be, we're going to take this particular framework that already existed, and then I'm going to take these classes, I'm going to bring them together, and that way I will have this new framework. And I said, well, who's it for? Well, it's for developers. It's for developers? You're going to sell to developers something that you are going to do as a developer and they could do as a developer? How long is it going to take you to do it? I only think it's going to take a day or two. And you think they're going to pay you when they could do it in a day or two. You're going to do it for people who don't want to do it. Well, how much are you going to charge them? Well, I was thinking about charging them $40. $40. Like, I'm sorry to say, I don't think you have an existing customer. I don't think that market exists. I don't think people are going to pay you to do something they can do themselves if it's actually not going to take them very long. Now, if it might take them 6 weeks, maybe they'll pay you $40. That's my particular take. They came back to me 6 months later and another one came and said, oh my God, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I didn't do it, and I talked to some other people, and it turns out no one was going to pay me anything. I'm glad I could help. That's what I do. I help people. But the reality is you have to figure out what part of the market are you going to go after? And what are the assumptions of that market? And what are they able to pay? That's all on the client side. Well, there's other assumptions in the model. What is your offer going to be? Some PhDs at MIT did some research, distilled it all down. We'll talk about their book at the end of this presentation, but they distilled it down to fundamentally, you're either putting out a product, or you're putting out a service, or you're creating a place for trade. You're creating an environment for people to exchange. You're finding buyers or sellers and bringing them together. Which one are you going to do? Right? And then there are assumptions about you. Who you are, what skills you bring to the table, how much money you have, what kind of team you have. If you have a whole group of sales and marketing people, and you're all excited, you're a whole team of idea people, you're a whole team of people who know how to do messaging, well then development's probably not the thing you want to get into. You need to figure out a different model. If you're just hardcore development, a hardcore engineer, right? If what you're counting on is incredible marketing from your engineering team, probably going to be a challenge, right? And so you have to know, you have to do some personal reflection to figure out, what is it I'm bringing to this game, right? Not just because, as Corey was talking about earlier this morning, right? We were going to get into the hosting game. He said, because other people were getting the hosting game, because I was looking at it from a revenue model. But if your team isn't prepped to get in the hosting game, why would you want to get in the hosting game, right? You're going to get excited by the money and then get pulled through the morass of challenges because your particular team doesn't have that skill set. So what I want to do, I have one core message that I'm going to walk you through here, but I want to start this morning by giving you 5 truths. Are we ready? And all these slides are uploaded already, so you don't have to furiously scribble or take pictures of each slide. But the first truth is this, okay? Most people are so excited by an idea that they want to jump into the doing part of it. They jump into the, I'm starting right now, I'm doing it right now, right? I'm doing it. One of my first startups was created because even though we were talking about the idea, one of the guys called the 2 of us founders and said, I quit my job today. We're like, why? I quit my job today because we're going to start this now. And we're like, well, but we need a contract from a telephone carrier to even get started. I'm going to go to their office today. Are you under the impression that that's how you get a contract with a telecom service provider? You just show up to the office, knock on the door. Hi, I'd like to resell Nextel. Could you please give me a contract? That's not how it works. But he quit his job and was like, we're starting today. We didn't quit our jobs for several months. Because we didn't wake up on some weird side of the bed and say, let's just start. But most people, they just want to do. They don't want to plan. They don't want to evaluate. They don't want to assess. They just want to do. Most people, right, they do too little research. They don't even know the depths of the dynamics of the market they're about to get into. And so what happens is they jump into something, and then 3 months later or 6 months later, they're like, I didn't even know there was this competitor in that space. And I know that sounds silly, I know it sounds crazy, but I can't tell you the number of times I'm talking to someone, and I was in that role. I would go to a venture capitalist to raise some money, one of my startups, and I would go sit at the VC, and the VC would ask me, like, oh, okay, you want to do blah, 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 great. What about these guys? And I would do what most of us do, right? Well, yeah, they're there, but we think we have a competitive advantage. We didn't know who he was talking about. We didn't even know who the competitor was. We're like, I've never heard that name, right? Because they were in the business of evaluating the market all the time. Most of us don't do near enough environmental scanning, which is the ability to look across a space and evaluate the conditions of that market before we ever step into it. Third truth, most of us get anchored too easily. There was a study done in Canada by a group out of Toronto. A research university assembled a group of people. Excuse me. They assembled venture capitalists. They also assembled university professors and folks that were currently in businesses, right? Successful executives. And they created this little group, and they brought people in that had business plans. And they said, we will review your business plan and give you feedback, and we'll score it from 1 to 5. And a 5 means you should do this, pour as much money as you can into it, accelerate right now. This is an awesome opportunity. That's a 5. A 4 was, we think this is a pretty good idea. We think you probably want to make a couple tweaks, But other than that, go for it. And a 3 and below was roughly, you're out of your mind, turn around and go do something else. Right? They looked at 300 business plans a month. And they did this service for free. And do you know how many people got a 3 or below and still did what they wanted to do? Almost all of them. And I know we like to put that on posters, right? I don't care, we talk about Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan came home from school one day after he lost the game, and he shut himself in his room, and he was crying and upset, and then he went and won all those rings. You and I are not Michael Jordan. I don't know if you knew that. Steve Jobs, right? He got fired from his own company, and then he went home, he thought about suicide, he was so depressed, and then he came back, he bought Pixar, and he bought Apple, came back to Apple, and he killed it. He killed everything. He's amazing. You and I are not Steve Jobs. And by the way, that's not the story. That's not how it played out. Right? And so we don't get into the details. We just want to put it on the poster. No matter what someone tells you, you just do you. Don't do you if you don't know what you're doing. Like seriously, if you're an expert in the field, do you. You be you. If you are not an expert in the field and you're talking to experts in the field and they say, whatever you do, do something else, obey. But we get anchored. Nope, this is the thing I'm going to do. I'm going to do it. I don't care what anyone says. And then 6 months later, we're on to the next thing of this is what I'm going to do. How many of you have someone that you know in your life? If they're sitting next to you, don't raise your hand. I have a new entrepreneur. Don't raise your hand. It's not me. I have a new idea every 6 months, right? I have a new idea every 6 months. This is going to be the total killer thing. You got to believe me on this one. And then it gets worse if they ask for money, right? Here's another one. Most people just copy someone else. Do you know how many phone calls I've been on with folks in the WordPress community who say, we're going to do like Woo themes for WooCommerce, and we're going to have a marketplace of extensions. Let's back up for just a second, okay? First of all, if you talk to the Woo themes guys, if you talk to the guys that just sold to Automatic, right? They're shocked that WooCommerce took off the way it is. Not Magnus and not Mark are sitting here going, yeah, this was our plan the whole time. They're like, are you kidding me? How did this even work? Right? But more importantly, think about their business. If they're building an e-commerce solution, how many shipping providers do you need to ship something? Yeah, they may have 10 or 20, but the customer's likely going to grab one. How many payment gateways are you going to need? They may have 50 or 60. The customer's likely going to grab one. An extension model works when the customer is choosing one of 50, one of 20, and assembling their solution. It may not work for you if you're sitting here going, I'm going to take my fully featured product with 5 features, and I'm going to make 4 of them extensions. Because the customer's like, I need all 4 of those to make your stupid thing work. That's not, copying Woo themes won't help you. Yeah, but they're killing it, so I'm going to kill it. You will not kill it because you're copying someone else, especially if you don't understand their model. And here's the 5th truth. You don't have to be most people. For as much as those people do those things, you don't have to do it. You have the opportunity to be different. You have the opportunity to be rigorous, to evaluate, and to make smart choices about what you're doing. So let's talk about parts of the model real quick. Again, hard to read, so let's just read it out here. The model consists of your understanding of a customer segment, right? Who am I serving? An offer at a price. What am I offering them? What am I charging them? And even, how am I charging them? Am I charging them up front? Am I charging them on the back end? Am I charging them a portion of what they're making? Am I charging them a flat fee? There's all sorts of ways to think about that. How am I getting my product to my market? Am I doing it direct? Am I going through a partner? Am I going through a channel? Am I going through a marketplace? To ask myself these questions. What about cost? Is it something I can just do on my own? Or do I need to pay someone else to do part of it? Or do I need to pay someone else to be part of their marketplace? Or will I give up a portion of my revenue to be in a marketplace? All of those are parts of the model. And then staffing. Can you do it alone? Do you need to have a team? How big a team? What kinds of people on the team? In my second startup, we brought in a guy from Visa, now a very good friend of mine, to be in charge of vendor relations. Vendor relations in the telco business means you're the guy that sits down across from Sprint and talks through the negotiation of the contract. So he went into the boardroom with the Sprint guy to talk. And as he was talking with the Sprint guy, the next thing we knew, the Sprint guy was storming out of the building, and my buddy Larry came out and said, we need to take all the Sprint plans off the website. I'm like, you suck at vendor relations. Like, what are you doing? Right? He's like, well, I may have said things to him that he didn't like. Well, I'm certain you did that. Right? What kind of person do you need on the team, and what are they going to do? And do you have the right people on the team? These are the parts of the model. They don't all have to be in Excel. If you're not an Excel person, you don't have to freak out. Some of these things you can just write down. But they are assumptions, and they are decisions, and you want to evaluate each one of them. Does that make sense? We're clear on that? Change any part. You change any part of your answer to any of those facets of your model, and you are looking at potentially a brand new model. If you simply change the team, oh, I'm going to outsource to someone else, you're changing the model. If you change the cost or the way you're pricing, I'm going to do it as a subscription instead of as a one-time fee up front, you're changing the model. And changing the model will have a dramatic impact on your business because you're in a different business. Does that make sense? If you change part of the model, you are potentially spinning up a completely different business. And most people realize that only too late. Oh, we made this little tweak. We thought it was just a little tweak. We lost 60% of our market. Yeah, that's not a little tweak. That's a, oh my God. And let's see if we can recover quickly. My message to you this morning, the core thing I want to tell you, and the thing we'll walk through the last minutes we have, is that you should score every model. You should score every idea. I spent a lot of time hanging out with the CEOs of companies in the WordPress ecosystem. For the last 4 years, that's what I've been doing. Beyond my day job, I hang out with the CEOs of companies like Woo Themes and iThemes and Security and companies like that. And I sit down with them as friends, as a consultant, as a coach, as an advisor, and as someone who mostly just likes to nag them. They don't always pay me for this. If I could get a full-time job just nagging, my mother would be so proud. But when I sit with them and I have this conversation, they're like, well, we have a million ideas and we don't know what to do next. And I'm like, well, there's a way to solve it. Well, there's no way to really solve it. Yes, there is. There is a way to solve. If you have a million ideas, or even if you have 10 ideas, there is a way to solve that by scoring them. And so I was sitting with the CEO of one of these companies, and they said, what do you score? There's no way to score them. I'm like, I'll send you my spreadsheet. They said, you seriously have a spreadsheet to score all your ideas? I'm like, yeah. And I helped run a company for 8.5 years where we scored every single idea, every quarter. And we only worked on the top idea, sometimes maybe two. And you go, well, how are you going to score it? I simplified what I have as a 10 or 12 column spreadsheet. I simplified it for us. But before I show it to you, I want to talk a little about the model that these two PhDs from MIT did. You can see it at smarterstartup.org. I'll name the book again, A Smarter Startup, at the end. But they did the work to say, look, there's fundamentally product, trade, and service, but also at the intersections of these, there's subscription, the center ecosystem, marketplace, and brokerage. There are different models, archetypes for businesses. And it's brilliant work they've done, right? What I want to do really quick with the minutes we have left is to show you an example by saying, let's take the idea of e-commerce and let's jump around different parts of the model. One part is, okay, let's build an e-commerce plugin. Let's do it. Let's go for it. And we're like, yeah, there's other players in there, but we think we can do it better. Another is, no, let's just build a hosted e-commerce solution. That's a software as a service, a SaaS. Another might be, let's just do a service where we sell e-commerce websites to the people and we do the building of it, right? And another is, let's build an e-commerce marketplace where buyers and sellers can meet. Do you realize that a single idea of e-commerce, when we start changing the model, creates multiple business options? Does that make sense? And we can score them. We can score them on customer, competition, timing, team, and finance. Now I'm going to move through this quickly because the point is to just show you it's possible, not to get into the details. And these slides are online. But let's look at customer, right? Is there an unmet need? Is there an untapped segment? You want to go high, you want to go low? Maybe you want to do a certain kind of commerce that is only mobile commerce, right? And can you reach that customer? Or are they locked behind some market in some aspect that you can't get to? And then what do? You score it. And you're like, oh, commerce plugin? Sure, I can do that. But a SaaS sounds much better to me. Building sites? No problem. Building a marketplace like eBay? Whew, I don't think I can get customers to come to my new marketplace, right? But that's just me. You might have a different score. Then we go to competition, right? Is it already commoditized? Have the prices pushed all the margins down? If it's commoditized, I don't know, isn't it? What about barriers to entry? Can anybody get in? Am I going to have tons of players coming in every month that I'm going to have to differentiate against? And can I differentiate myself? I come back and I go, oh, well, the e-commerce plugin is going to be a lot harder to differentiate because there's so many people doing it, but maybe if I focus on just mobile, maybe that could work. SaaS, you know what? I'm not going to compete with the big boys, right? There's already a lot of guys doing that. But you know what? I'm feeling pretty good about sites because that's just a service and I can find people to do that with. Marketplace, no, that's going to suck. What about timing? Validate the market? You don't want to be first. You want to be second or third. Let the first guy go spend all the money to educate a market. Let the first guy go out and validate the market. But the moment they've done that, step in and take it over. I can tell you all day about some companies that did that. And the first guys are always pissed off. Any new innovation that's making this possible, what used to not be possible is now possible, and is there a race to zero? Not a place I want to get into. Not the time. So I go, oh, the plugin? Hey, this is a pretty good time because WooCommerce just got bought. I'm assuming they're going to be very busy with their new friends for a while. So this is a good time to get into that space, but it's an even better time to do SaaS because in the WordPress community, no one's doing SaaS yet. That's awesome. Sites, yeah, I can still do that. Oh, and that eBay thing, that was stupid. I don't even know why it's on this list. Team, do I have subject matter experts? Do I have the core competency? Can I pull this off? Are there particular supplier relationships I'm going to need? These things are going to impact whether or not I have the right team to do this. And again, I can score it. You know what? I feel pretty good about building a plugin. I don't know the first thing about building a SaaS. This could be really difficult for me. I can run a team for developers, no problem. And yeah, why are we still talking about eBay? And then finances. What's it going to cost and do I have the money to do it? Is there a capital float? Like in the services game, I'm going to have to spend money first, then build something, then send out an invoice, and then wait 30, 60, 90 days to get my money back. That's a float I got to cover, right? Are there any economies of scale, right? If I do it and do it and do it, does it get cheaper as I go along? and I can score it. 6.542. You know what happens? Slice looks pretty good to me. But that's just me. The scoring is unique to me and how it works for me. And the scoring is going to be unique to you. And the thing you need to understand is every bit of that model is a set of assumptions. So you're going to have to validate them. There are resources I told you about. The book that the folks wrote from MIT is called The Smarter Startup. There's another book that's called Business Model Canvas. And lastly, there are thousands of people answering questions at a service called Clarity.fm. All of these are resources you should become acquainted with and study and learn before you step into your next business. My name is Chris Lema. I'm the CTO and Chief Strategist at a company called Crowd Favorite. I blog over at chrislema.com, and you can find me at Twitter at @ChrisLema. Thank you very much.